like to successfully proceed like with being able to be fully there in the project. It's really what it takes. It's one thing at a time.
Hello, my name is Brandi Hofer. Welcome to the Color Me Happy podcast. I'm so grateful you're here, and I'm very grateful for your time. You are going to feel so empowered with our episodes and our guests because they live a truly passionate life. They're excited about what they do. They know that creativity matters and that your art matters and that it matters to following your passion in life to ultimately see your everyday ordinary as extraordinary. These episodes are almost unedited, very raw, so it'll feel like you're sitting down for coffee with a friend. Feel free to reach out anytime at Brandi Hofer Studios on Instagram and subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks for being here.
Here we are. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. It's been a long, long time. You were on the podcast, what, like 3 years ago?
Yeah, I believe that was what it was 3 years ago.
Who knows? So we met through the Art Queens, which is great. And I can't make meetings, so I'm like, why am I in the Art Queens if I'm never? It was great when we were all stuck at home, and then I had kids, so I was really stuck at home. And now it's just unrealistic because I'm like out and about all the time. But Are you still active? No.
I've been, it's interesting because there's this great opportunity with the internet to be able to go in and out of those spaces depending on what life is calling you to do. And I think there's just like an ebb and flow to those kind of communities where you can, step into it when you need extra support and you're trying to like learn a new tool or resource, or there's something there that's able to like bridge where you're trying to go. But I think there's also like that isolation process of creativity where we have to come back to our own practice and just kind of be in where we're at and in that kind of place.
That's so true. And to like honor how you're feeling and not push things, because you can burn out, right? Of going in too much into one thing in particular. I know when I like murals, it's nice in Canada because it's not that nice because it's cold, but it's nice for mural season because it's like a very short season and it's like mural, mural, mural. And then you're like, oh, I'm tired. And then by the next year and next summer, you're ready to mural again. And so it's a really nice, and then by the winter, you're like, oh, I get to create in my studio. I get to create on my kitchen table. I get to spend time with kids. And yeah, and then summers for sketchbooks, which you sent me some videos about. And we have our like sketchbook project that we do every year. Mostly clearly, I like decorating the cover.
They're beautiful.
But when I do go into them, it's so funny because like I just do like things like staining and pattern work, and it starts like showing up in your own practice and your own work, even if you're doodling with your kids. And so it's such a good practice to have. I can't say I'm the best because I won't lie, but it's very good when I do, and it's nice to have something that's just for you. You do something a little different, which I want to hear about.
Yeah. Just on the sketchbook thing, it's a tricky process for me as well to really get into like that temporary creative, like to allow myself space to create anything that's going to be kind of temporary is always a tricky spot for me.
Me too. It's like, why am I doing this if it serves zero purpose? But there is purpose. You just don't get to sell it necessarily. You do, but like it's hard. Like when we are both in a season of life where time is so limited.
And it always, that's just the way movement goes. It's just making, what can I do at this time? I have an eraser that's everywhere. So I started integrating in the sketchbook because I have 3 kids also, and they come home with the most fantastic artwork, and I am not a neat person. And so I would like to keep their artwork. Where do you put it? It just like with getting stacked, like paper stacked in random places. So I set myself up that each of my kids have a sketchbook. And basically, when they come home from school, I go through their papers and anything that's kind of fun or interesting, even if it has like a interesting picture on it. I just kind of put it to the side, and I already have like, so you have your sketchbook, you have a glue stick, and you have a pair of scissors, and you just keep it in some place that's accessible. And kind of just like as they come home, or I have just a folder for each year, I just started to just take the glue stick and just glue things down. Just so they have something to start with for themselves. And it could be like really wonky and messy. And I just like tape things in. And then I allow them to kind of come in and play with it when they're ready, or like in the summer. And it can be like a co-created thing, but also just makes me feel like I'm doing my part in archiving and supporting their creativity when I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I don't want it to just be kept in a bin somewhere either.
Yeah, my sons have bins, and I don't keep everything. That's really, there's a lot that comes home. But as an artist, it's like even the simplest little like weird things they make, like I have a really hard time, especially as like I love collaging too, especially in like small collage and obviously on the covers. But like this is Teddy's, and like, yeah, I can't throw it out. And I'm like, what a great bright yellow that is. Like compositionally, it'll be so grounding in the piece. And whatever piece that is, like my mind of the future piece of whatever. And so I love that you save it. And that is organized. I'm messy too. I'm like so messy. And my husband always complains how like I'm ruining the whole home. Like, and then our kids are creative and messy. So it's like totally, I'm hoping that like one day when we sell, we'll find like a buyer who like appreciates that, you know, like they'll epoxy the studio floor instead of like covering it up with flooring, you know. That's my goal. I'm like, find the right people. Anyway, yeah. So I thought too, like, wouldn't it be cool when they like turn 10 to make like have all that? And this, maybe we can do a class together, like a small mini thing. Would be cool, is making a painting out of all of their things.
Yeah.
Their things when they turn 10 with them. My son is 10, so it would be time for his junk to be glued somewhere.
Yeah.
Or Mod Podge is my new favorite. I don't know if you use it. I was using like, sorry, my brain is totally everywhere. But what's your favorite medium to use for, like, I was using the Liquitex mediums and they dried way too fast. And then I don't know why I assume Mod Podge was like the like low grade whatever, and it's just not. It works the best. It doesn't warp the paper. It dries in the exact right time. It like does the job. I'm obsessed now. I'm like, I gotta get an Amazon storefront because I'm starting to like,
yeah.
The Truman Show.
When you find the things that work though, I'm like, how did nobody ever tell me about this?
Yeah.
It feels like I want to share it.
I have so many collage artist friends, and I'm like, why weren't you like Mod Podge? You know?
Let me know.
I also called it Mod Podge with a G forever until
I think I did. I think I still call it that.
I heard someone call it that because as I was doing a video, I was like, in the middle of the video, I was like, it's a D in there. It's Mod Podge.
I definitely Mod Podge. I always called it that. Why is there a G in it?
Everyone's gonna be like, me too, for life.
That's funny.
So are you a Mod Podger?
Yeah. Are you a Mod Podger?
Podge Podger.
I'm a don't sleep under the Podger.
Oh, so good. Okay, what's going on in your life creatively? I do want to talk about you and not like my favorite products.
I love talking about products though.
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd. I'm such a product nerd, and I loved using all the things. So you can go for it if you'd like. um, but I guess so creatively, I'm working on two main projects right now. One you saw, I'm kind of transforming this dog. In my town locally, it's been over a decade now. They've done this street art project where they have a theme and invite all the local artists to submit an idea, and you get like the form, whatever it is that year. It's been like boats, it's been horses. Last year was a little Volkswagen bus.
Yeah, that was
So,
cute.
yeah. And then they allow us to transform them creatively. They go out in the town all summer long. So there's like 35 of them made by local artists. Just make the town so like enriched and fun. And they have like a little walking map. And then at the end of the summer, they go up for auction, and 2/3 of the proceeds go to local charities.
Oh,
And
great.
it's just such a fun creative project for myself because it's working in a 3-dimensional form. So it just takes me out of whatever I'm doing at the time, because I usually don't work in 3D, except for this project mostly. So it just changes my mind of like how I'm functioning creatively, and it brings different skills to the forefront. And then, yeah, it's just so cute to see all the kids like walking around the town and enjoying art in like an interactive way. And I love my community. I love the town I live in. And I feel like it's my contribution to give back all the support they've given me since I've been on this journey of being an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're doing that. That's so great. And I want to definitely know where you guys get those forms. Because we're doing our first annual mural fest, except we're painting like Jersey barriers, which are 1,500 pounds, like those parking lot things, which they do in the city of Calgary in Alberta. And I live on the border of Saskatchewan and Alberta in Canada. And so we thought every year if we do like 10 to 20 barriers and they get removed like around town and the city moves theirs, then like eventually we'll have a bunch of like colored ones, right? Which would be really, really beautiful. Oh, it's my pen. Awesome. That just like sums me up today. So we're very agricultural, obviously in the prairie provinces. So I thought it would be so cool to do a giant cow. And I saw Frances Berry, who's in the States too, and someone asked her to paint a cow, same forms as you guys. So I'm like, they got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
But it would be such a cool thing to have as part of the festival. And then like a smaller version in the kids, I'm like, and there's a kids art zone. I'm like adding stuff every day. I'm like, also the mural festival have this. I'm like, dude, like piece out your ideas. Same with Art Academy. We're doing like a 15 to 18 foot cobra right now. That's gonna like come from hang over the doors. I'm like, just breathe. Like you can only do so much at once, right? With your like dreams for your community. And it's like in time, you can do all of this, just one thing at a time, for sure.
Yeah. That's always the big lesson, is like to successfully proceed like with being able to be fully there in the project. It's really what it takes. It's one thing at a time. And then you're on to the next dream and thing, but the dream and desire and journey. But
I always have the fear of like the momentum of the idea, you know, like sometimes when you have a good idea and you think it's the greatest in the moment, and then I guess like Elizabeth Gilbert said in Big Magic, like if you don't use your idea, it will float off for someone else to use, which is fine. And I think you come to terms with it. But like sometimes I'm like, if I don't like use that momentum, it might not happen.
That whole idea haunted me for so long after reading that book. And I was like, what do you mean somebody else gets it? Like, wait a minute. I thought this was my
okay with her writing your book. Yeah.
I was just like, what? I actually had to work through a lot of my own stuff but it did circle me back to just embodying my own creativity and knowing like anything that's for me or any of these ideas that I'm actually going to pursue, they're not going anywhere. Like you can't take or like the same idea of like, oh, if I don't stay consistently creative, I'm losing like my being an artist identity somehow. But like, what a silly idea. I'm like, no, like creativity there's no choice in that for me. I live every ounce of my life in a creative haphazard of like the spillover of life. Like that is who I am. It's not going anywhere. Like maybe I wish it would a little bit.
Yeah. Lock
but
me in
it's
a
like-
closet and I'll write a song. Like it doesn't matter where you're doing or where you are, what you're doing. It will totally, I hear that. Like, yeah, flow out into your life. It just lives in you.
And I think like also that what I've learned from that process is any idea, like everything really has like this underlying thread right beneath it. So everything just kind of circles back if I don't move on it then, if it's really meant to be, like the idea kind of just transform and will change over time and might not be that same original idea, but all those like thoughts and ideas I've marinated and kind of conjured up in this huge fantasy of like a thing I want to do just gets a different place to put it or a different time to put it, or it just kind of looks different. But I think anything that's actually meant for me to bring into existence like comes back.
I love that. So sorry, I wanted to write that down because it's so great. Yeah, definitely. Like if you just have patience and vision and know that yes, those things are meant for you in the right season of your life at the right time, and then honoring who you are. And what I see this morning about Mr. Rogers, how he speaks slowly, it's just like keeping you in the moment and present and giving yourself room. Yeah, and like having kids around, do you think, like, I feel like a better creative. It's a little definitely more chaotic, but having your kids like in your life and part of your creative process, what does that look like for you? Because I know I love my creative process a lot more now that it like kind of involves them, or like, you know what I mean? Like their ideas are really great. Like their ideas, like it was Teddy's idea to do animal portraits, and that went complete, like it was just over Christmas to kill time. And like I was like, oh, I'll put this up anyway. And it went completely viral. And I'm like, okay, I get why that happened. It is fun. And we had a blast. And when you capture those emotions and their passion for art, you know what I mean? Like how has that affected your creativity in your life?
It's so interesting to think about, because if it wasn't for, I had my first son when I was really young. I was like almost 19. And I've done everything with him. It's like there was no choice. Like he was just automatically on the journey. And I don't think I would have been brave to do anything if it wasn't for him. I don't even know, because he obviously was just a baby, but having him gave me that purpose and desire to just want to create a life around my creativity and being able to be with my family. And it's kind of funny because somewhere along the lines in the journey and like learning that I could do all these things while having kids and figuring it out, because as moms, we are naturally creative at like figuring it out, right? It's like a superpower. But like when I started learning like, oh, the internet supports me in being able to like access like this limitation that I wouldn't have been able to go to galleries with, my son on my hip and showing my artwork, it's given me the opportunity to live this life. And, in the long haul, it's been an interesting ebb and flow of, man, I've taken on so much. It is chaotic. My kids live in that momentum and movement and see all the parts, which I think is beautiful. They get to experience, and I get to like experience them in their creativity, which is an incredible gift. They're really tough critics.
Yeah.
They're a little no nonsense. But yeah, it's been a really cool journey. Something that I found just reflective, I guess, is my own desires of coming into my like certain parts of my creativity and the attention it does take. I had noticed I didn't have the ability to open myself up to always have them in that space sometimes, if that makes sense. And so I just noticed I got a little lost on that track of like coming back to like, this is why I do this. So I went through a little bit of a journey. Sorry, it's like full circle brain jumping, but if you're with me, but to come back to like a project I'm working on, I got hired to start this children's book. So I'm working on this really adorable children's book of Chunk the Groundhog. He's this organic farmer, and he's this famous little groundhog who pops up in the camera and just like munches on this farmer's crop. Yeah. And I started that project over a year ago, and it was one of those moments that kind of brought us all back to the kitchen table again. And I'm sitting there drawing with my kids, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is everything I want. Like, this is my dream. This is my goal. And it was a nice little reset.
Mm-hmm. I know my husband's like, how did your studio all of a sudden move to the kitchen table, even though we have like half our basement is my art studio?
Mm-hmm.
It is spread so far. I'm like, the light and the plants are up here.
Yes.
And it's just like Teddy does come down and create in the studio, but the other boys are getting older and like preteeny, like a little bit. And so it's nice to have them like sometimes come and like just sit and draw for a second. And yeah, connecting back at the kitchen table. We don't use our kitchen table anyway. We have a big island where we eat. So I feel like it's perfect. Yes, messy. But I don't know where like your parents become uncool or something, because a lot of kids would kill to live here. Not kill, but like they would just love to like be a part of this, and you guys just don't seem to care at all. And their friends come over and they're like, that is so cool. And I'm like, hey, you want to do this with me? And they're like, nah. Like, come on. Teddy's a gamer though. He's 5. That's like the perfect age. He's still, but yeah, like hockey became way more of a priority for them. So it's sad. It really does go way too quickly. And that's cool that you got that commission for your book though. And then your children are a part of that process, which they should be. That's like the best way to know if it's good or not. If kids love this and kids created it, do you know what I mean? Same goes back to that animal portrait thing. Like the kids did it, they loved it. It's like proof already that it will be fun for kids, and they gravitate toward one another's ideas and energy of life.
Yeah, I love watching, because I also teach kids classes sometimes, and just watching their mind when they're in their creative process just begins to open and unfold is so cool to witness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know I always go back to when I remember I'm looking like right where I decided to start involving Gus, because I was a very like feminine sort of figurative artist. Like that's just what I love to do, like female portraiture and yeah, figurative work. And I just remember being like, that's not really like it was, but I'm like, Gus is calling to me right now. And then we made that big collection. And it makes me want to like share it again to empower others, to give them permission. Because I feel like 10 years ago, we weren't allowed to show that as part of our process. And then I like shattered it with like having a kids exhibition, and there was like 130 people with like balloons with suckers tied to them, and drive along cars and swords and the art, and like that was way more fun than the snobby openings I've been to ever. Like that was full of life, and I hope that it opens some doors, or some, like, it's not like we were showing in New York or anything with that, which that would be awesome. But it's like, I know I have some really good art friends who are exhibiting and showing their nursing and bringing their kids to the openings, and it's good to see. It's good to see that shift.
Definitely. It does take sometimes just rewriting all the rules and just throwing, getting weird with it, blurring all the lines. It does take the torch holders to do it, though. Someone's got to lead the way and show what can be done and the rules that can be broken.
My friend sent me this super viral video, and she's like, look, and it was a dad painting with his baby, like a portrait. I was like, thank you, that's really cool. It shouldn't be an anomaly. The fact, number one, that a dad is spending time with his own baby, I think that's why it was so viral. Like, first of all, that shouldn't be, like, that should be normalized for sure. Secondly, I was like, I've been doing this over a decade, so cool.
Yeah.
And she's like, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, I know, but like, same time, like, it's a little frustrating. Like, I'm like, that's what I do. That's my message. That's like, at your everyday should be part of your art process. And I know, and that's okay if you're an artist. And I have Caitlin Winter on this week, releasing on Friday, or we're in the future. I always forget that. Last week, we had Caitlin.
I love that.
In the past, and
We're in
this
the
will be airing in the future. We had Caitlin Winter on, and she talked about like not having her kids, but I know there were times she said she did, and that's totally okay. It's very realistic to want to be alone while you create too, because it's your own time, and there are the right times to have your kids around, and then there's the times when you're doing this just for you. And I think to find the balance between the two, or make time for those things. How do you make time?
You just, like, I guess I have like a similar process. I have my art stuff everywhere, and it just becomes like stolen moments. I kind of look at my days and I'm like, okay, this is where I can carve out time. And I'm just so used to being in that place. I don't know if it's because of motherhood and just always in that like transitory period of like, okay, get the kids. Well, especially now that they're in school during the days too, that's kind of helped. But I kind of just look at whatever is currently in front of me and carve out a little bit of time. I'm really big on that 1% of progress each day. Like, I don't need much. I just need an hour, and committing to an hour, it brings you so much further than being unrealistic and being like, oh, I'm going to paint for every day in the studio nonstop. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't work like that for me. And creativity doesn't work that way either.
No.
I'll have days where I have energy and I'll not want to stop, and I'll allow that flow if I can. And just know that it comes and goes. But it's hard, it's a constant reminder and inner battle with your own. Hey, Junior. My old husband's got his phone on. Hopefully it's not disturbing. There's always this process of coming back, like just returning back to yourself and checking in on like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it?
Yeah.
What is the time?
I know I can't remember the last time I painted for 4 hours straight in the studio. Like, I've been gone painting murals. But yeah, I can't, like, it was so long ago. I feel like we value our time now that like we have a limited amount of time for ourselves. It's like, it's almost like this big treat, which is better because I don't waste time. when I
Yeah.
have a full day, like there is time wasted in there, which is good because it like recharges you a bit. You're like, I have a little bit more space, less productive, but more space, right? And if you do have a 1-2 hour window when your kids are gone too, like you're like, I'm not wasting this, right?
It's actually amazing. These are like the limitation, like what might be considered like limitations, but even for a creative process, things like time restraint or limited resources, whatever, can be such a gift to utilize because you're not able to have time to get into your head. You're like, no, I'm in movement. And then you have your body just like physically engaging in whatever you're doing. And your creativity is able to just kind of happen and flow because you're checked out of overthinking it. You don't have time to think about it. You know, it's like, actually, my art is better when I have kind of those limited spaces to not overthink or not, you know, be there trying to get into like the nitty gritty details because, you know, my expression is in motion all the time. I feel like it just it can be supportive if you allow it to be.
Yeah. And I think just showing up in the space where you create. There were times in my life when my kids slept that it was very routine and you almost like your body expects it. You know, it expects to hear the music or drink the tea or whatever your habit is. At like, I remember it was 7:30 every night for the longest time. And I would, because I would of course nap in the day with my son when I had one child. And so at night I would have this wonderful creative energy. And yeah, and if I wasn't in the studio, I could still hear the music. It was so cool. And I love that routine. And I think that's so important, especially if you have young kids and you want to show up daily, because that's how you get better at something, is showing up daily and realistically. Oof. So it's like, absolutely, I love that. But yeah, once they get older and the school things and the extracurriculars, it's a little bit harder to have the exact same time of day. It's almost impossible, actually. So, yeah, now it's just like, well, just gotta make it show up somehow. And it does.
It does. It does. But I also think that's just what happens when, like, there's like no choice to the creative part. You know, you figure it out because there's something that you just have to, because creativity and creating is just like, has to be like, I don't know.
Even like saving it up and thinking about it, which is important too, right?
Yeah, there's purpose in all the parts to it, you know. But I don't know. Lost my thought.
That's okay. We have our last and final question. If you had unlimited funds for your community for just one day, what would you do?
Unlimited funds for my community for just one day to do like a creative art project.
Anything
Is
you
that
want.
What I mean? Anything I
can-
want. Oh my goodness.
Red. I don't know, whatever you want. Whatever you want for your community. It can also be, mine gets really big, so.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be able to be a one-day thing,
I know.
but I have like a big,
imaginary, so.
yeah. Okay, so I have this, my big dream fantasy thing is like to have a community help like interior re-renovate a house to be all very creative. Like I had this vision, like you would walk into a house and it would like the children's scribbles going down the walls, and then each room would lead to another section. So the central room, you kind of go through that passageway of like the childlike markings that we experience, like our first forms of expression. And then it leads into like this navigation room is what I called it. And it has like a ship, and then you could see all these different maps. So you can go wherever you're called to, you know, it's all about like individuality and whatever is unique and calls to you. And then each room in the house is like a different environment. So there would be like one that's an ocean, and I was like, we'll put sand all over the floor and have hanging ships from the ceiling. And
Whoa.
one is like a fairy tea room, and there's like coffee served and like snacks. But there's like these willow tree little banquet tables. So like basically the community kind of adds whatever they creatively want to put together into the, it's called the healing house. I thought about it.
Yeah.
And
I feel like this needs to happen for real.
and so yeah, it just, oh, and there's like a huge library, which is like a huge resource for anybody of any interest. But everybody from the community is able to bring whatever their unique gift is, like their tool set and their creative practice to build or add to the transformation of the rooms.
Perfect. I love it. It's gorgeous. You have to do it.
Working on it. We'll see.
Yeah.
At
Good.
some point. But I was like, maybe until I have the funds to recreate an entire house. Because like that sounds like a big project. I was like, maybe I'll just fantasize paint all the rooms in paintings first and entertain that idea. Because like there's always stepping stone ways, but yeah.
Exactly. Well, you could even have it as a studio space for a long time and just chip away at it, right? It doesn't have to be a thing all at once. Like your studio house, and you can have like open hours and work hours, and then you'd start meeting people who would volunteer and help you along the way, or sponsor, or you know what I mean? Like it's just like one little thing at a time.
It's true.
And then one day the city would take it over because you can no longer, like small steps.
Small steps.
Yeah, to get there. Well, thank you. It was so good to see you. And we'll keep in touch. Send me a message anytime. We'll talk more about your sketchbook stuff. I think it's so cute. So, yeah.
Thank you, Brandi. I appreciate you for having me on.
Yeah, where can everyone find
you? You can find me mostly on Instagram at bach.tara.
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Instagram at Brandi Hofer Studios anytime. I'm happy to chat. That's where I sit. And I'm so glad you're here, and I cannot wait for you to dive in. So give us a like and subscribe, and check the rest of our channel.
If you want to feel empowered and inspired, like and subscribe for more. And if you want to get creative, check out all our art hacks on this channel.